Hey friends. So this week we're going over the Sennheiser True Wireless 2s. Again, the reason why I got these is not because I don't have headphones, I have plenty of them. But these ones had active noise cancelling and, despite me having the Jabras and using them all the time, I still wanted to see if the ANC was worth it, as well as just to see what this product was. It was alright received in the first generation, but I've heard that they made a ton of different improvements on this to make it worthwhile. So again, this is a $300 headphone, so you really need to make sure that it's worth the bump in price that other models that you can get, some of the top models, for probably $100 or $50 cheaper. But as you may notice, this review is coming slightly late, and that's because I was waiting for Sennheiser to get back to me about certain things about the build and certain things about the performance and stuff about their app, just to make sure I had a full perspective of like what's on the roadmap and what it's supposed to do. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't shortcoming or I wasn't, cutting them too hastily when I'm coming up with my insights. So again, apologize for the lateness, but it is hopefully going to give you a better understanding of how these perform. So now that we've went over this whole little intro here, let's get into the build and fit. The True Wireless 2's case is wrapped in a linen-like material and adorned with a printed Sennheiser logo. It makes the case look extremely classy from the top. The back houses the USB-C port, battery indicator, and action button, while the bottom stores the tech label. Unfortunately, I think that this is pretty jarring. I don't like how it's placed, and it takes away from the overall feel in hand. I would have preferred if they did something similar to Jabra by hiding all that information in the lip of the lid. Speaking of the Jabra 75Ts, their case is significantly smaller than the TW2s, yet curiously is able to eke out the same 28-hour charge capacity. While the Sennheiser's case is a little more chunky, it's by no way massive. It's still easy to pocket. With its bigger size, it does provide a heftier and quality feel. That can be seen with the strength of the magnet as well. You can see here that the buds just slip straight into place and they're not going anywhere. If I dropped the Jabra case, the lid would fly open and the buds would scatter. The TW2's magnet is super strong and secure that you won't have to worry about that. I mean, look at it mess with the magnet in the Jabra case. So the case itself is pretty solid, and I do like all the functionality they give, and it's kind of attractive. The actual material that they put on this is a little bit harsh, but I think it does soften up over time. However, I do wish that they used a little bit more soft touch cloth like they did in the Pixel Buds first generation. While those headphones are freaking trash, the case was actually nice to feel in pocket, and it's very small and stuff like that. So I do wish they used the same materials, but overall it's pretty rugged. It doesn't really stain that easy, so the case itself is a nice little house for it. However, once we get done with the case, we obviously have to go inside, and that's where the really big design changes are that will differentiate it from others. The buds come in a pristine white with silver accents. While they are an attractive pair and look nice when housed, I can't help but to think it feels a little bit cheaper than the price tag would suggest. The Jabra 75Ts have a slightly more premium look and feel in my opinion. The earbuds are extremely light, weighing in at only 6 grams per earbud, and when sitting around and listening to your music, you can easily forget that you have them on. The earbuds use silicone tips for isolation and come in 3 sizes. The mic grills are on the front edge of the earbuds and are used for calls and both active noise cancelling and ambient sound modes. The TW2s are slightly bigger despite the similar weight. While looking closer at the Jabras, you can see that the earbuds have more ergonomics and shapings for fit. This is probably the reason they fit in so snugly and sleekly. They require less adjustment and just feels more secure overall. As for the TW2s, they have a more boxy silhouette with flatter lines. According to the site, they've improved ergonomics from the first generations. While these are still comfortable in ear for extended listening periods, they still did feel a little bit less secure than the 75Ts, and they definitely stuck out more. Despite the shape, the earbuds really never had an issue slipping out. They did require adjusting every now and then, but otherwise there wasn't much to complain about in terms of comfort or security. They were durable enough to throw in my bag or in my pocket without the case, and I was able to do 30 minutes of jump roping without these flying out of my ear. with their IP55 rating, I also didn't have to worry about dirt, sweat, rain, or anything else affecting my music experience. They take a little bit getting used to because they're not as ergonomic to the ear, but hey, they're really, really light, so I didn't really notice them when doing any sort of activity. So I think overall, most people will be able to find a good fit. But when we're talking about differences from the Jabra, it really comes down to controls, because obviously the Jabra has clicky buttons, which are actually pretty nice to use. They're light touch in terms of how you interact with them. But obviously these are touchpads and they're a little bit more responsive. I do like how I didn't have to press in very hard for them to activate, and that I could configure them however I wanted. The app does a freaking great job about giving me the flexibility I want. And $300, I would hope that they did, but they do. So I can access my assistant, my call controls, my music controls, volume up, volume down, whatever I need through a single click, double click, triple click, and holding. So I can configure all of those features any way that I want. And to me, that's great, because there are certain times I didn't agree with the control logic that Jabra put into the headphone, and I just wanted to be able to switch it. On the Sennheisers, they're allowing you to do that right out of the box, right through their app, and it's really cool because I get to kind of, segment my controls, my calls on one side, my music on the other side, and then anything that I don't really use, like previous track or assistant, I can put it in the back of the control panel, which is great. So overall, I think they're super nice and super responsive, but again, they may be a little bit too responsive because they are just looking for some sort of touch, some sort of skin contact to initiate that. So again, I don't have the biggest shoulders, but doing pull-ups sometimes I did hit my ears or the controls on it. So again, if you're a much bigger, beefier guy than me, doing overhead press, pull-ups, anything sort of like that, you may be stopping your music or skipping a song or doing something because your shoulders are bigger. So it's just something to keep cognizant of. But in terms of the workout game, the controls they were really responsive, which was good. And they're also pretty responsive in the rain. So I did a run in the rain, and I was still able to access the controls without them kind of bugging out or doing mispresses or registering a press when a raindrop hit it. So it's pretty reliable, even in a rainy run, which was surprising because I've seen other headphones, like my Neurophones, which you get affected by weather quite easily. So outside of your assistant touch controls, your call touch controls, and your music touch controls, there is one more set of touch controls that you can interface with, and that's obviously the syncing. So to do that, all you gotta do is use your two fingers, hold both ear pads, and wait until the British Sennheiser assistant tells you that it's pairing. There we go. So it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. I noticed that it's kind of inconsistent, but usually it's pretty quick, a couple seconds. But then from there, you just have to go into the Bluetooth source that you want, find the True Wireless 2s, and connect to it. So it's pretty seamless, and there's not really much of an issue. However, obviously I'm coming from the Jabra 75T Actives, and those switch between the phone pretty quickly. So if I'm listening to music on my computer, it knows to stop and I can pick up my phone. So there were some quirks. It definitely did connect to certain things, or it would be delayed in connecting. So there's a little bit of lag or some quirks that I think that they can probably finish or fix in firmware. However, you don't have that option here with the True Wireless 2s. Initially, I thought I was just missing something, so I read through a bunch of different documentation. I looked on videos online, I went on Reddit, just to find some information. I didn't see much, so I just ended up going to their Twitter and asking them a question. I think it took them a couple of days to get back to me, but they did confirm that despite having 5.1 Bluetooth, they don't support multi-device connection. And I mean that, you can connect 8 devices. However, you can't simultaneously use them back and forth. So you can't hot swap connections like you can with the Jabras. And that was super surprising to me, and it was a little bit disappointing because as someone who uses their headphones for work and for play and for working out, it was nice being able to hop between different sources without having to think very much. For this one, I can still get that, but I had to pair every single time. And as you saw from the demo that I just did, it took a little bit of time. So in an instance, I'm listening to music on my laptop and someone calls me, I have to go into pairing mode, and then I have to find it on my phone and then, activate that before I actually get on that call. In that time, depending on the reliability and the speed of that connection, I might miss that call. So it's not the most seamless thing, but if you have some time and you're not like trying to like direly switch between, you might be able to live with it. Like, I don't mind it so much, especially if it's more like a chill day, but I do find myself leaning back towards the Jabra 75Ts if I really think I'm going to be switching meetings and switching calls and, using a bunch of different devices. It's just a little bit less hassle. But there's also something else that during that support case that they said that they would be able to do. So talk to them on Twitter again. They said that I can use a manage connections feature inside the app. And initially I thought it was just because my app wasn't updated. So I updated it, I still couldn't find it. I kind of let it go because obviously if I can't double connect to different devices, I don't really care about that feature. However, it did come into play when I had a follow-up case, which we'll get back into later. But basically they said that that feature isn't actually there yet. They're still in development. It got delayed in terms of their roadmap. So they will be updating that in a firmware update in no particular time frame that they gave me. So despite Twitter telling me I could do it, it's not there yet. So give it some time. Hopefully that'll be there. I don't know what the benefits are going to be. We'll just have to wait and see. But that should be everything in terms of what you can do with the touch. That's also with the connectivity. But there's also, in terms of connectivity, the strength of it. And that was something that was surprising. So I did a little bit of video just to show you how resilient, I guess you'd say, the 5.1 is. So I'm currently on a conference call. But I do want to see how the Bluetooth connectivity is working out here. So I'm going to be moving around my house a little bit. And in my house, there's a lot of bricks, so it does become an issue. So there'll be times where I will usually cut out and say my Jabras. But the good thing about this one is that despite all of that, it holds up pretty well, like no matter where I am in my house. So I'm going farther away from my room where my laptop is shooting out the call, but it's performing better than it did with my Jabras. So it's able to penetrate a little bit better. Maybe that's the 5.1 doing its thing. But I'm also gonna check by going downstairs and see how far I can get without losing connectivity. One floor. So 2 floors, it can still kick it up, or still pick it up, but the problem is that it does cut in and out. So I'm guessing if I go down 1 more floor, yeah. So going into the basement, obviously I lose all connectivity, so it doesn't really matter. But overall, it can penetrate walls pretty fast, even problem areas like brick. So I'm gonna try not to die on the stairs, but yeah, pretty solid. So I almost forgot to talk about the latency issue. And it exists, but I will admit that out of the box, I didn't really notice it. I attended video conferences, I watched YouTube videos, and everything in my daily life, and I didn't really notice it. But I think over time, my eyes must have adjusted to it, and I started seeing the imperfections because, watching YouTube videos, I started seeing the lip flaps unsynced, and then watching videos that I'm editing, I'm also seeing issues with a slight lag in the audio, and it gets more and more annoying the more you see it. But again, I was just assuming that it's my unit, and I wanted to look online to see if other people were seeing that, and it seems to be a recurring issue because there's a decent Reddit thread around it. So people did more official tests than I did, so you can go read that Reddit. I'll link it below. But the latency issue seems to be something that's going to stick, and that's because not something necessarily Sennheiser can fix, but they obviously went with the latest chipset of 5.1 Bluetooth. However, I think Qualcomm removed that low latency codec from its new chipsets, and it's not because they don't want that there. The
aptX LL, or the aptX low latency, was what was covering it before. However, they made better technology called aptX adaptive, which basically switches between HD and classic and dynamic. So it just moves around based on what you're listening to and what the frame rate is of the video. So it's a little bit smarter, so it gives you, really, really clear audio while still giving you the responsiveness it needs. And that sounds beautiful, right? Who wouldn't want all that sort of stuff? The only problem is they haven't implemented it in every chipset. So like only 12 devices or something like that have that special codec that you'd want. The Sennheiser True Wireless 2s don't have that codec. They only have AAC, SBC, and the regular aptX. They don't have the adapted version. So that's probably the reason why people are all seeing this latency issue, is because that aptX codec isn't the latest standard, despite them being on the latest 5.1 Bluetooth standard. Oh, that's so disappointing. But I don't even think this is something that they can fix. I mean, maybe they can fix it in firmware, but I just don't know what that timeline would be. Hopefully they can fix it. But it's something you're going to notice if you choose to buy these.
The Sennheiser True Wireless 2s have a pretty good mic. Through all the different conferences using, Discord, Zoom, Teams, they all seem to be coming in pretty well with these headphones, and people can hear me pretty clearly. They haven't had any big issues. So I set up a recording after I got connected. I'm just using QuickTime Player. Again, it's probably be a little bit better quality than you would get if you were just using Teams or other services that will have to, digitize your voice and put it throughout. But this should give you an understanding that there will be different qualities based on the device that you're using. But overall, like I said before, and I've iterated many times, call clarity is really, really good, especially if you're thinking about doing things like, walking around and things. The active noise canceling does a good job about blocking things out, and people don't really hear all that background noise and wind. Obviously, if you're going at faster paces, like you're riding a bike, some of that will get in, but surprisingly, the microphones don't pick up as much wind as I'd expect. It definitely outperforms wind resistance more so than what I would say happened with the Jabra 75T Elites. Sound quality is also where the True Wireless 2s smash the Jabra 75Ts. This is by far one of the easiest listening experiences I've had with a pair of earbuds. It has great balance, and I never felt like it overpowered in any particular direction. Switching between genres was extremely easy. Bass was tighter and punchier than the 75Ts, and vocals never came out harsh. Even to listening with podcasts, voices were noticeably sweeter through the TW2s. Obviously, with active noise cancelling, the TW2s have better isolation than the 75Ts, but also that ANC is extremely natural, not stuffy, and didn't really impede my music experience. On the front of transparent hearing, it did extremely well on the street for awareness, but I still had to turn my volume down significantly to hear someone talking. However, when I did hear someone's voice through those mics, they were able to reproduce voice in a very natural tone. Overall, the quality and sound of the music is boss, and it makes it easy for long listening sessions. So mic's solid enough to run your everyday calls, and probably the best sound signature I've heard on True Wireless earbuds. It just has enough punch, very, very clear, they're boss. So obviously, if sound's important to you, you know where to go. However, despite that, I may have a reason of why you may not want to pursue these and drop your 300 on it, and it comes down to battery life. And they're purported to be 7 hours per charge on your earbuds, and then this many hours inside the case. Anyway, despite me forgetting that stat, I found that actually holds up pretty well under a certain caveat. You get about 6.5 hours to 7 hours if you're not using active noise canceling and if you're not using hear through or ambient sound mode. And obviously, I would expect those things to drain the battery a little bit more because they require more power. You're using the mics in the transparent mode and the ANC mode. So yeah, it takes a little bit more battery. But did you expect it to take you down to 3 hours? Because that's what happened to me, is the battery would die so quick. Like I would take calls in the morning, and by noon, by morning I mean like 8 a.m., and by like 11 or noon, I would get the warning from the British assistant lady telling me low power on my earbuds, which was like astonishing to me because that never happens. And it's also the fact that I just really started getting annoyed of her freaking voice because of that. Because every morning it would be like, recharge batteries. And I'm just like, why? They said 7 hours. So I started doing more dedicated tests. So I'm going to kind of cut away to a voiceover talking about how I tried to use the app, but essentially it wasn't meeting the standards, so I had to do something. At 2:03 I had full battery with no ANC and no transparent hearing on. By 4:13 I was at 60% battery, and by 6:22 the TW2s were completely drained and disconnected from my phone. That's only 4 hours and 22 minutes with no fancy mic mode on. When trying to charge this for a second run of tests, the app would give me strange readouts. For example, I got 20% in 6 minutes, and in 34 minutes I was at 100%. But also, at 35 minutes I was at 70%. Well, that's dumb. Anyway, I finally got this thing to 100%, I think. So I started playing music at 7:10 at 100% battery. By 10:39, the TW2s disconnected from my phone. That's only 3 hours and 29 minutes with no ANC nor transparent hearing mode on. That's bonkers. It got worse. So overall, it was really hard for me to tell if I was full battery or half battery, because that battery signal inside of that app was just coming up and down, and I couldn't tell. I could have charged it for freaking 20 minutes, and then it would go for like, oh look, you have 50, no 40, 30. Like, I couldn't tell. It was so hard for me to get a handle of what the actual battery was and how fast this thing was charging because of the fact that the app was so unreliable, couldn't read it properly. But obviously I smartened up, and obviously freaking Android does that standard, so I just checked on the Bluetooth icon and it told me what the percentage was. But it was just astonishing that those would be different. Like, Android reads one, the actual app that the freaking headphones are built around don't tell me the right percentage. I'm gonna believe Android's versus yours or versus Sennheiser's is just because of the fact that it's more reliable. I can't go from 90 to 40. Am I like halfway dead, or am I almost full? Tell me, because I need to know. But based on what it's been seen is that obviously the 7 hours that they're giving me, or in terms of the specs, is not real. Because who the hell is gonna be using this thing just flat? You're gonna probably be using ANC, especially if you're in office or if you're traveling, and you're probably gonna use hear through if you're on a bike. So most of the time, you're probably gonna be using one of the modes that leverage the microphones on the earbud. So you're just expecting 3 hours. So that was just not acceptable to me. So I obviously reached out to Sennheiser and being like, yo, what's up? Your app sucks. Your battery life is killing me so fast. And this is their response. So yeah, that's what is expected. They didn't say like, oh, that's weird and it shouldn't be discharging that fast. They were saying it's expected. If you're using one of those modes, your battery's gonna drain faster. They didn't tell me why, like how much more, but they're just saying that to me, that sounds like it's expected, and it's not a defaulty. It's not a bad device. Like, to me, I'm gonna give the company the benefit of the doubt and say like, yo, maybe I got a bad unit. Send me another one, I can retest it. But based on the response, it sounds like that's the expected behavior. I'm gonna get half the battery if I use the microphones in any sense of the word. So it's, again, if you're using ANC, if you're using ambient sound mode, if you're on call, it's like that 7 hours that they project is only for music, and it's only if you're using music on the flat. So that is mind-boggling. These are $300. $300. They're expensive. That sound is amazing, but they're not $300 amazing when all of the other technology around it is trash, especially the app. The app is trash. It is garbage, son. Nothing works with it. I mean, you can equalize things and you can set your controls. Those work well. But in terms of reading a battery or, checking that the connectivity is right, everything that they promise inside the app doesn't do it. So it's trash. That's trash. You need a better app. That's rough. And you can't multi-connect? Come on. I don't know what else to say about these, but, one sec. Let me regroup. Okay, so my guy, I gave you the Jabra 75T Elites, right? Mm-hmm. You've been using them for how long?
Probably a few weeks, a month now, maybe 3-4 weeks.
What do you feel about them?
I like them. They're good.
Like, what would you need from them for you to spend $120 more on them?
120 more than what?
So those ones that I gave you were 180.
Okay.
So what would those headphones need for you to be willing to spend $120 more?
Ooh, I don't know. They would need a lot more. Like, I mean, they're good headphones. Maybe like, I don't know, some like special features.
What kind of features?
Like,
Drive you around town?
maybe instead of being in your ear, like it can expand to cover your ear and then like decrease to go back in your ear, something like that.
Okay, so you're talking about future tech that doesn't exist. You're starting to talk about like anime inventions.
Yeah, like.
Okay. Okay. So basically you're saying $120 is a hard sell to spend more on shit like that.
Of course. Yeah.
See? He made it up. He made it up. There was nothing that could say that you'd spend $120 more. I don't know about this, guys. I really wanted the active noise canceling to be there, and it is. But at the cost of me not using this thing all day? No. Like you heard, my friend. $120 more. $120 more. Why? Why? Why would you do that? If you can only use this for 3 hours, why would you do that? That's right. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. They need to fix so much more for me to tell you that you should buy these. If you really like music and you want something that's wireless, like, I guess, like, yeah, sure, drop your money. Or you could buy an over-ear set. I don't know. To me, if you're really thinking about active noise canceling and you want good sound, but you want to take it all around, you might just need to be a 2 headphone kind of guy. Over ears for everything that you need to block that noise out and focus, and then your regular earbuds for everything else in terms of like walking around the city and listening to music and taking a call. Like you can just do that through that, and then for your isolation, just use a nicer set of headphones, because $300 you can get one. You can get one, my guy. You can get one. So it's what makes me the maddest is that I pre-ordered these. And they took so long to get here, but I had other on my my freaking schedule. So I can't even return these because it's beyond the date. So I'm just stuck with these, and I'm mad. I'm mad about it. Like I'm trying to think in my brain how I can salvage this, and I'm like, maybe firmware. Well, firmware will fix it. Firmware is not gonna fix the trash battery on this. Firmware might make their app better, which I would love if they could just make that more reliable. Maybe I could, find some use for this. But for me, you got to be really needing that. True wireless experience and really care about the sound of your music to the extent that you're willing to sacrifice on features and battery life. I wanted these ones to be the one. I wanted them to be the one, but they're not. And I'm so sad. I am so sad. Oh, okay. Anyway, thank you guys for coming along with me in this rant of mine. I really appreciate you guys coming through. Gotten more subscribers, love that. Love the comments too. I'm gonna apologize if I can't get to your comment, and that's most likely, like I respond to most everyone, but sometimes I can't respond because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Like someone responded as like, what do you think about these JVC headphones? And I'm like, I haven't seen JVC since the 90s. So I'll do some research and I'll find some time to get around to it. It's just I don't have enough experience with them to actually give you good insights, but I'll do my best to get to it. Maybe I'll get into a review in the future, but please bear with me on those ones. I'm not ignoring you. I definitely respond to freaking every comments because we're still maintainable. However, I do appreciate you guys engaging more, and it's been fun. It's been making it really good from getting me on my schedule week by week, doing a little bit more and trying to give you guys good content. I would love by the end of the year if I could get 1,000 subscribers just to level set with everything. And so as long as I keep obviously being consistent with my schedule. But again, please like, comment, consider subscribing, bell, do all the things that you do on a video that you normally like and love. And I'll see you next week. As always, appreciate you. Peace.